Hello. So I wanted to do this video about these three states: stillness, presence, and connection. Because these are three states or a trinity that will liberate our mind, body, and souls. It does liberate our mind, body, and souls. And I think these states are probably quite misunderstood, and people find it potentially difficult to move into these states due to all the programming that we've been subjected to, due to all the distractions. So I'm going to give you at the end something, a meditation that's going to connect you into these three states. And we're just going to talk as well at the end about, some simple ways that we can bring our power back so that we can spend more time within these states, which, like I say, are states that are going to liberate the mind, body, and soul. So before we really move into that, let's just explore these states a little bit more in relation to a tree, because nature is always reflecting back to us our own nature, and it holds the keys to us finding our stillness, presence, and connection. And as we'll find with this world, everything's always been right there, staring us in the face, and it's really only been the programming that we've been under, heavy programming that we've been under since childhood, since birth, that stops us from seeing and connecting to the truth. So if we think about a tree, if we think about when we go walking in nature and we see trees, most of us, I don't think I've ever met anyone that doesn't feel some sort of a connection to a tree, doesn't love being in nature, particularly in the forest or the woods. When we see a tree is really in its own presence. It has to be there. There is nowhere else that the tree can be. It is present with itself, present in its own stillness and connection to the earth. Trees grow these deep, deep roots that connect it deeply into the mother, into its source. So it's connected through the roots into the earth, into the source, so it can receive nourishment directly up from the soil, from the mother. And then it grows this strong trunk, and it grows up and it branches out towards the sun, towards the source. It can receive light as well. So it's bringing up nutrients from the darkness, from the underworld, and it's bringing in light and life force from the sun, from the sky. And it's allowing it to stand strong in its own presence and connection. It's connected through this network of roots into all the other trees. So it has this community, this network which it is connected into, and it stands in its own presence. So we can all know that when we're in nature, at least I feel this way when I'm in nature, I feel calm, I feel centered, because we are actually sharing within the energetic field of the trees. The trees are ancient and wise, and trees actually live for hundreds, if not thousands of years, because they are regenerating themselves by being connected constantly to a constant flow of nutrients from the earth and a constant flow of light and life force, light particles from the sun. So that is the same with the human body, right? The human body is actually designed in its organic template to actually regenerate itself and to live for hundreds, if not thousands of years. Now, obviously, that is not what we have been experiencing in this reality. And that is because we have not been plugged into the organic structure or matrix. And there's been lots of programming, lots of things done to our water, to our air, to our soils, to our food that has been really poisoning those things, right? So that our body doesn't have the nutrients, can't pull through that nutrients from the soil, have that constant supply of nutrients, and then connect fully to the light flowing in from above, creating this toroidal field of unrestricted, never ending, free flowing energy. But when the body has that, as we start to move more into the organic structure, which is what we are doing now, we are moving into the organic structure. And how do we help ourselves to move into that organic structure? Well, it is through these three states. It's by embodying these three states of stillness, presence, and connection. Then we give our body the nutrients from the earth. We can literally root in through our energetic body, and we create these energetic roots that go deep into the mother. And that allows us, when we actually do that consistently, and we do that through meditation. At the end, I'm going to give you a meditation where we will be plugging into these states so that we can create our roots into the soil and make those roots go down deep and far and wide so that we can actually start to receive this abundant flow of nutrients from the earth, and also give us that deep connection. So when we have that deep connection, if you think about a tree, when a storm comes, whilst, yes, okay, sometimes some trees do fall over in the storm, that is when their roots are bad, right? That is when their roots are weak. Normally, most trees that have strong roots, that are healthy, well, they do not fall over in a storm. They just stand in their presence because they have created that deep connection to the earth. And we do the same as we spend time in connection with the earth, in stillness and presence. Then we create these deep roots into the soil, into the earth, which means that when chaos happens around us, we are not pulled over by it. So when it comes to the body, as we start to root into that, then, as I say, the body is actually built through the organic structure to live hundreds, if not thousands of years, to regenerate itself. We're not supposed to, we are in an inverted matrix, and that is why people suffer from, it's one reason why people suffer from disease and illness, because they're out of balance, because they're never in any of these states, because everything is created to keep us outside of ourselves, to keep us distracted. So we have to make a conscious choice to actually embody these states and free our mind, body, and soul. I started meditating years and years and years ago, and it is just the number one tool that actually allows you to open up to the truth of who you are, to really bring the soul back into the body. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But through the organic template, what the way that we are designed to live, when we are in this balance, is actually that we would live hundreds, if not thousands of years, and we would leave these bodies not through illness, not through pain, not through suffering, but when we'd come to the end of what we wanted to learn in this life, and we decided, okay, it's time to move on to another life, we'd leave the body, and then we'd go on as a soul to go on to our next part of our soul's evolution, because the soul is eternal. So next time you're walking in nature, just observe the trees. Just observe what I'm telling you. Just contemplate the fact that the tree is always in stillness. It's in presence, and it's in deep, deep connection with the earth. And because of that, it stands strong, and you can feel the calm energy, the strength that comes from the trees. You can feel that. That's why we feel good. That's one of the reasons we feel good in nature. So presence, what does it really mean to be in presence? So I just thought I'd get the Google definition of this, and it is the state of fact of existing, occurring, or being present. And that is what it means to be present. It means to be in our own energetic field. Many people are disconnected from their own energetic field because of the programming, because of all of the distractions, and often spend a lot of time in the mind rather than in presence, in the body, in the mind, often in a future that they are fearing. And the mind doesn't know what's real or imagined. It only knows what we keep showing it on repeat. So if we are constantly having our mind in a fearful future, fearing what if this happened, then the body starts to experience it as if it is happening, because it doesn't know the difference. So through that imagination, it experiences those negative thoughts. Those thoughts carry weight, carry energy, and it creates negative feelings. We have the thoughts, feelings, actions. So it starts to create, we have these negative thoughts because we're not in our presence. We're not just being in our energetic field in the here and now. We are in a fearful future. And it's not to say you can never think of the future, right? It's good to dream. It's good to go there and dream of the future that we want to experience, because the body can feel all the joy and the bliss of those dreams as well, which is great for the body to feel that positive energy that really lifts the body up. But on the flip side, if we're in a future that we're fearing, then we are going to feel that in the body. But also, even when we daydream, we don't want to spend all our time there. We need to spend our time in the presence, because if we don't spend any time in the presence, we're missing out on the truth of who we are, of being in our true energy, which, when we start to be in our true energy, everything starts to change for us because our soul is wise and ancient, and our soul has all of the answers, but we actually have to be with it in order to tune in, tap in to that, in order to allow it to actually start to take up space within our energetic field. If we are always in a fearful future or or reliving trauma in the past because we haven't done our work to heal that trauma, it's nothing wrong with looking back at the past. We must do that to heal and integrate the shadows of the past. That's what I do with my clients on the Reconnect journey. Well, it's part of what we do, and we have to heal the past. But if we haven't done that healing on the past, then often if we look back at the past, we're looking back at it through the lens of the trauma and the fear. And again, we're experiencing it in the here and now in our body, and we're like reliving it in the body, and we're literally doing more damage to our energetic field, to our health. And as we're doing that, our energy is literally split. If you think about your presence as this energetic field that runs through the body and runs around you, if you're sending your consciousness into a fearful future, then you're creating a rip in your energetic field, and you're allowing for other entities to move into your field because you're not owning your presence. You're not owning it. You're actually detaching from your own self. And it's same in the past. And it allows more of what is not us to move into our field. And this is why people find it so difficult actually to be in their own presence, just to be. Ask yourself, when was the last time that you just switched off everything, had no TV, had no phone, had nothing but yourself? Probably not that often, right? Because often, due to and this is not because it's your fault, but it is our responsibility as adults to start doing this healing. Often we haven't healed, we've got all these programs running, and it's too uncomfortable to be in the present moment. So we want to get away from ourselves, but we can't really get away from ourselves. It's an illusion of getting away from ourselves. And as we do that, then, like I say, we allow for more negativity to take up space in our energetic field. So being in presence really is about just being here and now with the body, with the self, allowing ourselves to really anchor into the body and into the heart space. As we move into presence, we move more into our heart, because it is our heart. It is our heart that is the gateway for our soul, that brings in more and more soul light. So stillness. When it comes to stillness, we can look at a lake, we can see a lake, and we can look, this lake here, it looks so still. And we can think that stillness means, well, I looked at what does the meaning of stillness mean, and it came up as the absence of movement and sound. But actually, that is not stillness. Anyone again will know as they go in this journey of connecting back to their own stillness, whilst there is nothing there, it is no thing. It's not a physical thing, but it is everything. There is so much going on underneath the surface. So just like a lake, we know underneath the surface, there is a whole life. There is a whole reality that is going on underneath the surface of a lake, which appears still. So when you are lying down still in meditation, on the surface, you may appear to be still. But the more you journey inward, you realize there is a world inside of you that is alive. One would say more alive than the world outside of you. It is from the world inside of you. It is from the antimatter, the cosmic womb, the cosmic river, that everything is actually birthed into the physical. So actually spending time in stillness, going inward into this world, we start to connect to our presence. We start to become attuned again to our true self, which is our presence, which is our awareness, our consciousness, our soul. So we start to feel, as we start to feel our true presence, well, that true presence, as we start to go into stillness, we've got that presence, we start to reconnect. We start to go into connection with the true soul self. So right now, most people are connected to the ego. And if you're connected to the ego, then you are in a world of pain, right? Because we're stuck in a box of limiting beliefs, of lack programming, which is the main programs that have been really inserted into the collective consciousness. So when we go into presence and through the stillness where, it's not still, there is a whole world of energy, of vibration, of color going on within our inner worlds, then we start to connect to the cosmos. We start to connect to the soul. It's through the soul we connect to the cosmos. We connect into the cosmic mind. And so I wanted to look again, what is the definition of connection? And it's a relationship in which a person or a thing is linked or associated with something else. So yes, connection, when I'm talking about connection here, I'm talking about connection to the self. Because the more we connect to the true self, then as we do that through stillness and our presence comes through, our presence, our connection, well, it is to the soul, right? And the soul is connected to source, and source and the soul are pure, unconditional love. And that energy is so high and so potent. Look at the sun. When you look at the sun, it's so bright. Sometimes it's like, whoa. But we know that when we're in the sun, we feel good, we feel healed. And think of this source energy. It's like the sun on steroids. The sun is source, but it's even greater because this our sun that we see in our sky is merely, and I say merely, take that with a pinch of salt because it is amazing, but it is merely a fraction of the overall source energy that we are. So as we start to go into stillness and our true presence starts to come through, we start to connect to that true self, then it actually starts to melt all of those limiting beliefs in the mind. It starts to melt those and it starts to bring us into the body. And it also starts to shift the trauma and the stuck emotions in the body that keep us locked into a fearful past or projecting into a fearful future. So as we connect to our true self, well, everything starts to change in our lives. Now, the more that we can connect to ourselves is actually a mirror of how we can connect to others. We cannot truly connect in any relationships, be that with our family, be that with our friends, be that with our partners, any deeper with them than we can with ourselves. So if there's parts of us that we can't even acknowledge, connect to, then we're not going to be able to truly have a really deep, under the surface a relationship of depth, of true intimacy. Because what does intimacy mean? It means into me you see. We have to be able to be intimate, to see into ourselves, to see below the surface in order to truly connect and start to live a life of meaning, purpose, passion, fulfillment, a life where we start to align with our presence, our true soul self, which carries all of the keys and coordinates to our destined life. So through that connection, through dedicating some time to go into connection, stillness, and for our presence to come forward, then we actually start to receive answers. Solutions start to come into our lives. So what keeps us from that? So I've kind of mentioned this a little bit before, but there's a lot of static in the system. There's a lot of things out there that have been programmed to keep us outside of ourselves. We've got TV, how many channels are there on the TV? It's actually insane. How many times have you spent just flicking just for hours? And even when you then settle on something, are you really satisfied with it? You're flicking. Now, I've been there many times before. I don't do that anymore because I've taken back my power, and I had to do it little by little, taking back my power. I didn't do it all at once, but I started to take back my power, and it revolutionized my life. Shopping, addictions, shopping is an addiction. The phone, your laptop, drinking, whatever it is, just have an honest look in your life. There's always something trying to get us to look over here. There's all these external distractions, or what I like to say is the theft of the soul. All of these external things are actually feeding our consciousness. And if our consciousness is, if our attention is within these external things rather than inside of ourselves, then again, it's other things can start to take up root in our energetic system, and we're losing more and more of ourselves. In fact, the truth is, and I go into this in a lot of depth in my Reconnect program, which you can get the first week for free in the description below. The truth is, most people don't really embody their soul because we've spent all of our lives being severed from it and being in these distractions. So at first, it can feel a little bit difficult to take back control of that, to bring back our power into our field, because often we don't want to just be in our own presence, to be still and connect truly with the self, because we have all these uncomfortable feelings in our energetic field, which we've spent most of our life distracting ourselves from, whether that's through drink, drugs, overworking, shopping, whatever it is. We spent watching TV, scrolling on the phone. We spent most of our life doing that. So it can feel uncomfortable to be in the now, because much of our soul is not in the body, because we've got to do that healing work. So we have to do it little by little. We have to observe ourselves and ask ourselves, where am I putting my attention? Do I give myself any time to be with myself, to actually realize that I matter? I am important. No one else is going to do this for us. We have to make a conscious choice. I made this conscious choice long ago to start putting more and more focus on allowing myself space to go into this time. In fact, for many years, I literally became a hermit, which happens quite a lot on your awakening journey as you spend more time going inwards. I'm not saying that you have to do that yourself, right? But do you have any time that you carve out for yourself? So, where can you be honest? Often people say, I don't have time to give myself any time, but that is just the mind. That's the mind that's addicted to stress, addicted to the quick fixes it gets through social media, etc. That's not the truth. And your body is suffering. Your body is kind of held prisoner because the mind overrides the body. So we have to be honest we have to have an honest look to ourselves. And we take back our power little by little, right? We can decide that. So what did I do? I decided for 2 days last week, I was very guided. I was doing a course on the Saturday. I'm training to be able to go into the Akashic Records, which is, the library that houses information about the timelines on Earth, about our own timelines, across all of our lives. And I was doing that training. I was guided for the 2 days up to just switch off everything. I switched off my phone. I switched off the Wi-Fi, my laptop. And I just said to myself, right, I'm just going to be, the only things I'm going to allow myself to do today is walk in nature, read, and meditate, and do chores, clean if I wanted to, just things where I wasn't using technology and I wasn't on a clock. And it was liberating to get up without the clock, and it was liberating all day to have not really any idea what the time was, and just to go to bed when I felt tired. Not that I don't do that anyway, but I didn't have a concept really of the time, and it felt so nice to just completely take myself out of the reality and into my own energetic field and just be with myself. And was there times when I felt like going online? Yes, there were some times, but I just didn't. I just used my own consciousness, said no, and gave myself them 2 days. And it felt great. And I came back after 2 days and I felt so refreshed, so inspired, because I started to hear myself. Because again, often, so whilst I've actually little bit, I've ended up getting rid of the TV, but I didn't do that straight away. It took me time to do that, and instead, I tend to study, I tend to read, I tend to meditate, I create things for my business because my business is my passion. So I put my energy into things like that. However, I have noticed lately that I've started to get a little bit watching too many YouTube videos because I do have my laptop. So those 2 days were like a reset, because you start to feel everybody's advice, information, content, just whirring around you, and I couldn't hear my own voice. So they just allowed me a reset to retune back into myself and bring myself back into balance. And I've said to myself, right, I'm going to do that once a week. Once a week, I'm going to do that. I deserve to have one day every week where it's 100% about me being purely in my own presence without all these gadgets and distractions, and so I can just be with myself. So perhaps you could do that, just give yourself one day. And you might be saying to yourself now, well, I can't do that. I've got children, I've got this, but there's always a way to do this for ourselves. We just have to open up and think outside of the box and know that when we do this for ourselves, that we are going to be bringing so many blessings into our lives. And also, what a great habit to get the children into, if you have got kids, for them to not be codependent on technology, actually to be able to be in their own energy field. Because if you can't be in your own energy field, someone else is going to be in it. Someone else is going to be the master of your life and your energy field. And that's not going to be great for anyone. So, what a great lesson to teach children. But you have to teach children through your example. So meditate, meditate, meditate. Meditation is amazing. Now I know lots of people might find it difficult to meditate, and I'm not asking you to sit in stillness and just go inwards and connect, because when I first started meditating, I could not do that. I got a job at 12. At 12 and a half, I was working, part-time while I was doing school. I worked from then, and then I went into, as I got a bit older, I went into finance. I was always on the go. People would say to me, wow, you've got so much energy. You're so fast. You're just darting around. I never stopped. I nearly had 2 nervous breakdowns. I was always on the go, and I started looking at things like meditating to try and de-stress myself. But actually, I started with hypnosis, to be honest. But as I started to move into, like, let's try some meditation, let's try to, hypnosis for me was much easier for me. Why was hypnosis easier than meditating? Because it's guided, because someone's talking, and I could focus on their voice, and it helped me move out of the mind. So when I tried to start meditating and just tried to sit, one, I felt uncomfortable sitting. I couldn't relax properly. And I started to realize I don't need to sit, I can lay down. And then when I just tried to be in silence, well, my mind would be racing, and I just found it so uncomfortable. So then what I started doing is actually blending hypnosis with meditation. Well, I started looking at guided meditations, and I found that was so much easier for me to go into relaxation. And once I started a consistent practice, my life started to change in so many different ways. And that is why now, what I actually do is, when it comes to meditation, is, so I do this with my clients, because I understand that just asking someone to go from being in that world of being always on the go, which most of us have been in that world for a long time, and a lot of people are still in that world. It's just hard to just sit down and then just turn everything off. And I understand that, and we don't have to go into meditation that way. It doesn't need to be that difficult. We can train our body and our mind at a pace that we can integrate into our body, so that we do create a practice that we enjoy to do, and we continue to do it, and then we build on that. So what I actually found is, by blending hypnosis and meditation, we could go on a guided hypnotic meditation, which allows you to start to retrain the brain to slow down. It allows you to help bring your consciousness into the body, and we go on a journey. So it's an adventure. And while we're doing that, your body starts to move into a deep rest state, and it starts to do a few things, right? Your body starts to heal because it's in a deep rest state. Your nervous system starts to bring itself back into balance, because most people's nervous systems are out of balance, and that's why they can't be still in connection and presence, because the nervous system is stressed, and it's got all this anxiety and stress coming out of it. So it starts to bring the nervous system back into balance. We must bring our nervous system back into balance to be in health, to be in optimal health. Without it, we're going to end up creating diseases in the body. So it starts to do that for the body. It starts to let the body know that it's safe to relax. It starts to retrain the mind to relax as well. The more that our mind is in a hypnotic meditative state, relaxed, then what actually happens is, in your waking state, provided you practice it consistently and give your mind enough time to move into that place, in your waking state, then your brainwaves actually start to slow down as well. So you have less of an active overthinking mind. It's not to say that your mind, that you won't have things going on in your mind at all. The mind is a bit of a chatterbox, but the more that you do this, the more that it relaxes it. And also the more that you do this, the more that you start to connect to your soul. So what I actually started to do was, within those guided meditations, guided hypnotic meditations, at some point, I'll bring in a period of silence where you are actually just in your own silence. When in that point, you can start to connect to your own awareness and consciousness, and that will start to get stronger. You'll enjoy being in those periods. And then what I do is I expand them out so that those periods get longer and longer. So you're basically training yourself in a way that you can integrate into the body to be in those realities where you are in stillness, connection, and presence without anything else going on. And you start to really enjoy being in those moments because, one, as you are in it more and more, you start to sense your presence, your soul, and your soul is connected to source, and source is unconditional love. And that love, like a sun, heals. It heals instantaneously. So every time you are doing that, know that your body is healing in ways that you can't logically understand, and you may not experience, you may not realize in the physical instantly that healing that is taking place, because everything that happens in the energy world, well, it will eventually show up in the physical world. It will be expressed on the mirror of creation. But there's a little bit of a lag. However, as we go into these states, we are moving into the quantum field. And in the quantum field, well, we are in a super accelerated state of healing and change. So not only is it helping our bodies to move into vitality and health, helping our mind to slow down so we can start becoming the masters of our mind rather than our mind controlling our life, but it's also connecting us to our soul. And as we connect to our soul and soul, it's actually melting the trauma that's stored in the body. It's actually melting any frozen, stuck emotions so they can start to move out of the body. And in its space, more soul light moves in. The more soul light you have in your energetic field, well, you become a magnet. You become a magnet because there's more of you in your field. So your soul, which holds your divine blueprint, which holds your destined blueprint, which is a life that is going to be a life of meaning, fulfillment. It's not to say there's no challenges on the soul's destined path, but it is a different kind of challenge when you are connected to your soul, because it actually brings you joy and bliss and meaning and fulfillment. It gives you, it makes you feel devoted and dedicated and committed to yourself and your life because you're doing something that really matters, that really holds meaning. I heard someone say something the other day, and I thought, yeah, simple but true. And he said, when people ask me what the meaning of life is, I tell them it's to live a life of meaning. Exactly. And we live a life of meaning when we connect back to the soul. So because more of ourselves comes into our field, we become a magnet, and our frequency starts to raise, because it means as more of us comes in, then less of the artificial programming, less of those fear lack programs that are not us, they're not organic to us. These are consciousness viruses. Well, they can't take up space in our energetic field if our soul is in our energetic field. So the less of that, which means it means that our life is not being dictated by those external entities, by those consciousness viruses. And this is all by us committing to a practice of going into present stillness and connection. So our frequency raises and we start to attract to us that which is in alignment with this new raised frequency. Now, I should say that as we raise our frequency, right, as we're going through this process of, it is a process of healing. We're healing as we're doing this. We're coming back into wholeness. We're actually taking the darkness, which is a part of us, and we're actually transmuting it with our integrating it into wholeness with our light. Now, as we're raising our frequency, then it's going to bring up more and more layers of that which has been repressed in our energetic field, of the trauma, of the unprocessed emotions. So those things are going to come up, but they start to pass through the body very quickly if we stay consistent to a practice of going into meditation and connecting to our true soul self. So solutions start to unfold for us, right? All of the answers are within. Now, I don't mean that you necessarily go in with a question, or you can do and get the answer, which you can do the more you meditate. But what I mean is just by being in your own energetic field, just by connecting to your own energetic field, then it's already starting to bring to you solutions for your problems. And so you'll start to see that if you do it consistently, that solutions just turn up, that you just have a bright idea, or you just hear what you need to hear, or you're just guided to the right person, the right path. Something will just click into place so much easier as we surrender to our own present stillness and connection. And paths are lit up before us, so we start to be guided on our path. Um, so that was just a little quick video where I just wanted to inspire people really to really think about the importance, the magnitude, the power of these three states of being: stillness, presence, and connection. And I'm going to link here a meditation which is going to help you connect to stillness, presence, and connection, but it's going to do it in a way that doesn't feel uncomfortable, because I'll be guiding you on a hypnotic meditative journey, so that you will go in and there'll be points in it where I expand the stillness so you can start to feel what it truly feels like to be in your own energetic presence. And just know that if you commit to doing this consistently, that presence, your soul, is going to get more tangible, it's going to get stronger. And the more soul that you have connection to, the more you're going to be guided on a more effortless path. So when I say effortless, there might still be some effort involved, but it's less effort than it is without it. Because, like I say, you are being guided by the soul, by the spirit, rather than by all these false artificial entities which are there to keep us in lack. So I'll link this meditation. Now, what I would say is, you know, like I say, you need to do it consistently. But like me, variety is the spice of life. When I do meditations, I love doing meditations, but I like to do different meditations. I don't always like to do the same meditation. I might do the same meditation for 2 weeks, or I might be doing there is actually meditations actually that I've been doing for months, but a lot of the time I like to mix it up and bring in new meditations. And often when we're at the beginning of our journey with meditating, we like that too. It keeps it exciting. Although it's in your own stillness, under the surface, where you're going to find the excitement as you start connecting to your true self. But as you do that, you might want to experiment with different meditations. But if you commit to this one and do it for 21 days, you're going to see a shift in your external reality. You're going to feel some of that peace that you're starting to connect to, some of that stillness, some of that higher vibration of love. You're going to start to see it start to ripple into your life. So you'll see some of those tentacles starting to touch areas of your life. So that should give you a flavor of knowing that if you continue to do it for longer, that's just going to grow. And actually that growth actually starts to accelerate. It's like compound interest. It starts to compound and it starts to create this massive momentum. It's like, imagine like you're pushing this cart up a hill, you're pushing it up, and then eventually you get to the top, and then all of a sudden it just takes off. And that's what happens with consistent meditation. But like I said, there is another meditation on my on my channel that you can do. There's a couple of if you find my playlist, which is energy activations, there's some meditations there. I am going to be releasing more and more meditations, so there will be more meditations from me that you can plug into. But there's so many meditations that you can look around for, and just you need to lay down, relax, close your eyes, listen, and see what voices you connect to, what feels good for you and takes you on that journey. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed that. Thank you.